apologize in advance to those people that I see in the room, Erwin Hochberg, Moriamate, that heard me speak this morning, essentially on the same subject. But I will make this one a little bit shorter because we are taking up the Goldstone resolution, the condemnation of the Goldstone Commission report in the House of Representatives, and I simply must get my 2 cents in over there. First, let me welcome you to our nation's capital. I'm absolutely delighted that you are here today. I think it is very important for us to make our presence known here on Capitol Hill. Long before I became a member of Congress, and I've been serving now for 11 years, I was a citizen activist and would come to Washington several times a year to talk to my predecessors about the pro-Israel agenda. And I can tell you, I would sit where you are and think, well, I was listening to people come up here and talk, and then they'd come to my office, or I would go to their office, and I would look at these blank expressions on their faces and say, am I getting through? Did I leave my work, my family, schlep here all the way from Las Vegas, take 2 days out of my life to talk to these people? Does it make a difference? Now that I'm standing here, let me tell you how invaluable it is that you are here. We deal with thousands and thousands of issues, and if we, as citizen activists, don't concentrate our efforts, and even for a few minutes, concentrate the attention of members of Congress and the Senate on issues that are fundamentally important to us, then I think we're missing a golden opportunity. So I thank each and every one of you. I want to very briefly talk about a few issues that are paramount on our minds. And if I was here as a citizen activist and listening to people talk about the U.S.-Israeli strategic relationship, these are issues that I would be asking and I would want to know about. So let me start with settlements. I think Israel has every right to build onto their settlements to accommodate natural growth, and it is no longer least of all, the United States of America's interest to tell the Israelis what they can and cannot build on territory which will ultimately be theirs if there is ever a two-state solution. When people complain about the settlements and say they are such a tremendous impediment to peace, those buildings are stopping any possible discussion that we could have with any Arab country and any Palestinian on a possibility of bringing peace to the Middle East. I remind my friends who say this and believe it, that there were no settlements in 48, no settlements in 56, no settlements in 67, but the Arabs still managed to make war on Israel. So if people think that the settlements are the problem, I suggest to them that they're not the problem, they were a solution to a very serious problem. People talk about a linkage between the conflict in the Middle East. There is no two-state solution. There isn't a Palestinian state. And if there was a Palestinian state, there would be no problems in the Middle East. There would be nothing wrong. Well, let me suggest to those that say, let us work on Middle East peace, and then we can work on every other problem on the globe. Well, let me say this to them. The plight of the, and I say this quite often, and I talked about it this morning, let us say, forget a two-state solution. Let us say that Israel ceased to exist tomorrow, just disappeared. Would the plight of the Palestinians improve one bit if there was no Israel? No. Would Hezbollah all of a sudden leave Lebanon and let them develop some democratic institutions? Absolutely not. Would Hamas all of a sudden stop terrorizing the Palestinians in the Gaza and stop lobbing rockets? Absolutely not. That's what they do. Would the Saudis usher in an era of democracy and equal rights for women? I don't think so. Would the Shiites and the Sunnis lay down their arms, sing Kumbaya, and get together in Iraq? I don't think so. Its nuclear ambitions, I am very sorry to say, it's not Israel that is propelling the Iranians to create create a nuclear weapon. It is Iran that is doing that, and Israel not existing would not change Iran's ambitions one bit. The reason that we can say no to each and every one of these things is because there is absolutely no linkage. Maybe we ought to work on the other problems first and leave a two-state solution for later. To the misconception, and we're going to be hearing a lot of that today when we debate the Goldstone Commission report and its condemnation. There will be people on the floor of the House that will be voting against the resolution condemning the Goldstone report and explaining in graphic detail how terrible the Israelis were when they went into the Gaza. And for those people that say Israel used disproportionate force, what I say to them is hardly disproportionate force. In my opinion, the Israelis exercised extraordinary restraint over the I was among one of the last civilian groups to leave Gaza. As a Jewish American and one of 9 Jewish women serving in the United States House of Representatives, I can tell you how painful it was watching the Israeli military forcibly remove those settlers. But I agreed with Sharon's idea that it was impossible to continue supporting and protecting 7,000 Israelis against 1.2 million Palestinians. But one would have thought that after the Israelis left the Gaza, that the Palestinians would have demonstrated that they were capable of self-governance. They would have built infrastructure and schools and created jobs and a brighter future for their people. They did anything else but that. As a matter of fact, Hamas came in, took over, terrorized the Palestinian people, and used the Gaza as a launch pad to launch rockets into the state of Israel. Ready for a state? I don't think so. The last issue I'd like to share with you is Iran. I was a very proud co-sponsor of the Iran Petroleum Sanctions Act. I think we should use every weapon in our arsenal. Diplomacy, economy, it must be for you, maybe. I am a proud co-sponsor, and we voted in a voice vote unanimously to bring the resolution or the law of the act to the floor. Now, while I am supportive of that and every other effort that we can possibly take in order to keep Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, I also believe the following. I do not believe personally that there is a carrot sweet enough or a stick big enough to prevent the Iranians from acquiring nuclear weapons. So we take nothing off the table. Now, when I told this story earlier today, when I had the opportunity to meet and see Prime Minister Sharon in his last visit to the United States, he met with the Jewish members of Congress at the Blair House. And we were sitting around, going around the table, it was mishpucha, and we were talking about, people were asking questions, he was answering. In response to one of the senator's questions, which was the usual thing that you see and hear, that if the Iranians get close enough to the bomb, that the Israelis will take it out. And Prime Minister Sharon said at that time, something that will stay with me forever. He said, a nuclear Iran is a threat to the United States, to Europe, to the Middle East, to all of the Arab countries in the region, as it is to the state of Israel. And the rest of the world should not look to little Israel to do its dirty work. I agreed with him at that time, and I agree with him now. and shame on the rest of the world if we turn a blind eye, do nothing, leave it up to the Israelis, and then condemn them for doing what we should have done long ago. Note. I'm worried that I would miss the Goldstone resolution debate if I stay much longer. I just want to thank all of you for being here. I appreciate it. I know that what we are doing is right, and being Jewish isn't the easiest thing in the world, but it's, you know, this is what we do. We are activists, we are engaged, we are knowledgeable, and what we do is very important. So I thank you very much for doing it, carrying on our traditions, and thank you for being here.